Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another video. You join me in the back of my fantastic BMW 7 Series that unfortunately hasn't moved really since I did my review video about 3 or 4 months ago. But I figured only last night that this would make for a really good studio for me to do talking pieces like I'm going to be doing today, talking about the incoming M3 Touring. It's good for a number of reasons in here. Number one is outside it's currently 32 degrees. In here I've got it set at 17.5 and it feels just fantastic. I've got some nice ice cold water in a control and shift bottle. I've got massage seats available, which I haven't got turned on at the moment, and a number of other luxuries as you'd expect in a near £100,000 7 Series. It is absolutely lovely back here, it really is. And I thought, you know what, this car is sitting here depreciating and costing my business a fair amount, so why not take advantage of it? Before we start the video, I do want to say a big shout out to my brand that I co-own with my best mate, Control and Shift. I don't talk about these t-shirts much, or haven't done in recent videos. I always wear them, but I really appreciate the support we get from you guys and girls. We've had fantastic sales over the past few months, but I urge you to head over and check out some of the new designs, like the one I'm wearing now. It's the new Breaking Bad t-shirt. The previous design was one of the best sellers, and Jonathan's redesigned this one, so really cool, top quality stuff. Obviously we do lines with the likes of Steph, ABTV, Petrol Ped, Love Cars, Car Obsession, Car Mad Dad. So head over to Control and Shift and have a look through. There's so many different t-shirt designs and mug designs, stickers, whatever you want, and everything that's sold on there just helps me with my channel. Well, it will do one day when I actually start taking some money out of that business, because so far everything has been reinvested back into it. As you could probably imagine, I get asked lots about spy shots. Let's take the new 4 Series for instance. When that started appearing 6 months ago or something online, people asked me about it and asked for my opinion, etc. And I always usually reply with a fairly standard response, that is, I don't want to judge anything until I know that it's actually happening, because a lot of these spy shots, the prototypes and stuff don't end up looking like that, and B, until I've really seen the car. This 7 Series for instance, I think yeah, it was quite hard to swallow when it first came out, but now I absolutely love it. And I think that's the case with a lot of recent BMW styling. I wouldn't say I love some of their recent stuff, but you certainly grow to like it more than when you initially see it, and certainly more than when you see the very early spy shots. So when I get asked about cars that people have spotted, I really try and just leave my judgment until I've seen the car or I know it's confirmed. That brings us nicely onto the M3 Touring. We know this is happening. The first inkling any of us knew about this car was 24 hours ago when BMW M Instagram posted a picture of the rear end of an M3 Touring. That is a tease, but it's also been confirmed. It is happening. We are finally going to get what will be called, I guess, codename the G81 M3 Touring. So very exciting times ahead, and I'm glad that the BMW marketing team didn't get hold of this particular shot before it went on the Instagram, because we didn't have any blurry makeup bloggers standing in front of the car. I think it was just a really nice, kind of subtle shot that was dark and didn't really give away too much, but it gave away enough. It was a fantastic photo. So whoever took that at BMW and whoever decided to publish it, well done, because that to me is a proper marketing shot, and it's certainly caused a massive stir, especially amongst the BMW community online. Within minutes, the likes of BMW Vlog and BMW Post and all the big sort of BMW forums were obviously publishing pieces about it, and it's even got me now sitting in my car talking about it. And I very rarely do things like this. So it's a very, very interesting car, and I think it's going to put a lot of pressure and upset some of the other bigger German brands. Firstly, I think we should maybe brush over the fact that we don't know if the M3 Touring is confirmed for the UK. I'm assuming, and I'm really hoping that it will be. I've spoke to a good journalist friend of mine who lives in Australia today, actually, and ironically, Australia BMW have confirmed that Australia are getting the M3 Touring, even though it's still 2 years off. But BMW UK have said that they have no idea whether we're getting it or whether we're not. So I want to get really excited about this car, but I don't want it to be a letdown in the sense that only Germany or whatever might get it. I think it's going to be a limited run. I really believe that there will be maybe between 5 and 10,000 units globally, and BMW again will use that as a bit of a marketing ploy, but I don't doubt that they will sell all of the units that they produce, because it really is the car that so many of us have been craving after for a long time. And I'm not talking about just BMW enthusiasts or addicts like myself. I'm talking about pretty much everyone that's into cars and is a petrol head. The thought of an M3 Touring is just, it's dribble worthy, if that's such a saying or word. Since I started my YouTube channel and expanded my Instagram and, let's say, Twitter and Facebook and stuff, if you don't follow me on any of those, please make sure you do, especially Twitter. No one follows me on Twitter. I really want to get that going, but it's just just Joe Achilles, the same as my Instagram, so check it out. I get asked, and I have been asked so many times over the years, why BMW don't make an M3 or an M5 Touring, an M Touring. What's the reasoning behind it? Now, I've asked some of the bigwigs at BMW UK over the years, and I've actually asked a couple of people in the know when I've been out of Germany at the headquarters out there. And the standard answer I've always been given has been that, unfortunately, China and the US are their biggest markets, their biggest global markets, and neither of those markets get excited about Tourings. They have no demand for Tourings, especially M car Tourings, and therefore there's never going to be one, effectively. That's kind of what I've been told over the years. There's no demand in our biggest market, so we're not making one, which seems a little bit crazy in itself, because I know the majority of Europe have been gagging for one. The UK, I mean, how many M cars do they sell over here? We must be one of the top 5 biggest M car markets in the world, and people go crazy, over the thought of an M car Touring over here. So always, to me, it was a bit of a cop-out sort of reply, and I think it's more of an old school. Maybe in the past Americans weren't into it, but I know for a fact, just from the people that I see online and commenting about things like Nick Pritchard's fantastic and glorious, we'll talk more about Nick in a minute, F81 M3 Touring. I know Americans love these Tourings, and also Americans love hatchbacks, and they would have sold tens of thousands of 1 Series or the F20, M135i and M140 over the years, but for some reason they just haven't ever let Americans buy those cars, using the Americans as an excuse to not build an M Touring seems crazy, especially, and I've talked about this in my recent RS6 videos, especially the fact that Audi have released the RS6 into the States for the first time as an Avant or an estate. Now, Audi wouldn't have done that unless they'd done their research and figured that it would sell, because it costs a lot of money to homologate a car for a certain region and commit to selling something like, especially something like an RS6. It's not a cheap car, and it's going so well out there in the States. And the minute that Audi did that and announced it at the end of last year, I just thought immediately, well, you know, BMW got to get their act together, because they are missing out. And I don't know if it's that's triggered their decision. Who knows? But the main thing is they are making one. And again, I don't know if they're planning on taking it to the States, but you would think so. I mean, it would be silly if they didn't. We all know the new M3 and M4, I think they're codenamed the G80 and the G82, are a few months off. In the UK, realistically, we're going to start seeing customers' cars early next summer, so 2021. We know that it's going to come with the fantastic S58 engine, which is basically the motorsport version of the already brilliant, tried and tested B58. So the same engine that's in the current X3M competition. So we're talking roughly 500 brake horsepower, twin turbo, 3 litre inline 6 cylinder. I mean, it's a recipe that BMW have used for a few years now, and one that we know is mighty and is going to work. And I think that if they're launching it with around 500 horsepower down the track, when we get a CS model or CSL or whatever they're going to call the hot version, we're going to expect, I reckon, somewhere close to 600 horsepower for that, which is insane in a 3 or a 4 series. We also know that they're going to bring out a pure version, I think they're calling it. So it's going to be a slightly detuned S58, producing about 470 brake horsepower, which is still a lot more than even an M3 or M4 CS in the F80 generation. So it's going to be very punchy. In that detuned version, the pure, is going to be rear wheel drive and also have the option of a manual gearbox. But again, are we going to get A, the pure version in the UK? I really hope so. And B, are we going to get the pure version with the option of a manual gearbox here in the UK? I don't know. We won't know until probably this time next month, so maybe mid to end of September. We will hopefully get an idea of what's coming to the UK. Again, this is another subject I want to just quickly talk about. Is I get asked loads about inside knowledge of BMW, and I honestly know as much as any of you guys and girls, and sometimes less, because I tend to stay away from the forums, because there's just so much arguments and hate on some of these forums that I just steer well clear of them. So I don't find out about stuff until someone, sometimes my BMW Adventures or a number of my other BMW knowledgeable friends, TRL Deals, Rollini, etc., they send me links or pictures or whatever, and that's when I first find out about it. I don't have a special insider at BMW, unfortunately. So yeah, when people message me and ask for my inside knowledge, I literally know less or as much as, you know, the rest of the world, because yeah, Google tends to know more than than I do. That's for sure. As we know, the new 4 Series has a pretty talked about and slightly horrific looking grille that has just really gone a bit too far. I've seen a few of those in the flesh, and they do look better in the flesh than they do in early press shots. I think whoever's taking some of these press shots in Germany are really not doing a good job, because they're kind of highlighting these really ugly features at slightly odd angles, and they tend to get accentuated in these pictures, and when you see them in real life they actually work a lot better. I'm not saying the 4 Series grille works though, because I just think it is very big, and it is going to take some time to acclimatise to. Now, we do know that the new M4 and in fact the new M3 is going to have a similar sort of grille on it. I think with those they're going to look less intrusive and a bit smaller, because the borders are bigger, the slats are bigger, so it just effectively shrinks the size of the grille a bit, especially aesthetically to look at. It just looks a little bit smaller. So although it's not ideal, and we'd probably all like to see a normal 3 Series grille on the new M3, it is coming whether we like it or not, so we've just got to deal with it. Ironically, this one image of this M3 Touring has suddenly made the whole world, BMW world, stopped talking about the front end of the car, and now we're all talking about the back end of the car, or the fact that this picture implies that we're getting an M3 Touring. And I think that's quite funny, whether or not that was a marketing ploy, whether or not it was, you know, it was BMW thinking we've got to stop people talking about the front end of the car, let's finally bring out the M3 Touring. I don't know what's finally pushed them over the edge to build the M3 Touring, and I do commend BMW for doing this, but I'm not gonna, you know, I'm certainly not going to congratulate them too hard, because it's so overdue it's not even funny. And I really think it's taken about 5 brain cells to come up with the decision that it's a good idea, because it's been a good idea for a long time, and I think they've lost a lot of sales and a lot of customers to the likes of Audi and Audi's brilliant RS4, Mercedes C63, you know. And it's just, if you wanted a fast touring, you kind of had to go down those routes. Yes, Alpina, of course, has always been around, and Alpina are going to continue to be around. And in fact, ironically, the new Alpina B3 actually has, for the first time, the full Motorsport S58 engine in it. So those cars are going to be very similar in one hand, but also very different in the other. I think the M3 is going to have unique body panels. It's going to look far more aggressive. It's probably going to feel more aggressive. It's going to be faster outright, and certainly around a track and stuff. Whereas the Alpina is going to be probably much prettier, because it's going to have the regular 3 Series grills. It's going to be probably just as quick in a straight line, but it's going to sacrifice handling on the limit, handling dynamics, for more comfort. And an easier car to live with. So kind of how Alpina and BMW have always played out, and I reckon they will somehow still not stand on each other's toes, even though they're essentially a very similar product. I think they're still going to be a very different customer. So I look forward to also driving the B3 at some point, just trying to figure that out. It's really like trying to get blood out of stone at the moment in terms of getting my hands on press cars. BMW have been very good, Audi UK have been very good, but it's amazing, you know. You beg some people for cars, and all I want to do is try and make some half decent quality content on a car that's effectively going to promote it for free for a manufacturer. And it's just, honestly, yeah, I could make a whole different video about that. And in fact, anyone that can come up with some good ideas in the comments below for videos that I should make in the car like this. I'm going to keep some of these cameras set up in here just so that I can try and make some regular content, because it's fairly easy for me. And if you guys enjoy it, then please give us a thumbs up and leave some comments below. Anyone that comes up with the best comment or the best idea that I end up using, let's say 2 of you, I will send you a control and shift magnetic vent mount. So yeah, please make sure you do comment below and let me know, and I'll send you out one of these with a couple of stickers and stuff as a prize, or as a thank you for coming up with a good idea, because I'm sure there's lots of subjects that I could talk about in here that some of you might not fall asleep listening to. This announcement has surprised me, because manufacturers these days don't tend to listen to the purists or their customers. They just tend to follow the trends, or try and be the trendsetters and watch everyone else around them follow them. And that's why we have so many different variations of models and whatever on the market at the moment, because everyone is trying to outshine, or you know, outdo the other person by bringing out another car in a certain segment. And something like this M3 Touring is more of a purist decision. So I'm guessing that there is still 1 or 2 people at BMW M that have a say in things, and have finally convinced BMW to produce something that really is important for them, is important for BMW M, especially with the likes of Mercedes announcing the new C63, or rumouring, sorry, the new C63 is going to have a 4-cylinder hybrid engine. I mean, wow, that's a C63 with a 4-cylinder. forget it. Like, surely that is the end of a C63 customer, because any C63 owner that I know just talks about how incredible the engine is, and it is. It dominates the car. It's the biggest plus point of that car by a country mile. You take that away, and I just don't see the attraction anymore. It's not a C63 in my opinion. So I think the timing of this release is just brilliant, because by the time it does come out, and we're talking, I reckon in the UK we'll probably see first customer cars maybe summer 2022. So 2 years from now we're going to see the M3 Touring. It's not coming in 3 months or 6 months, or no, we're not going to see it next year. And who knows, it could even be longer, depending on what this COVID-19 situation does and how badly it comes back to us over the winter and stuff. So fingers crossed that it doesn't get too much worse, and that, you know, everything does go ahead. But we're still 2 years off of this touring. Hopefully many of you have seen my video on Nick Pritchard's fantastic F81 M3 Touring. It's the most viewed video on my channel. It's fast approaching 820,000 views. And again, that was a massive telltale sign to me anyway, that this is a car that everyone loves and craves about. Whether they can afford it or not, it's something that is a real pin-up car. And Nick's been an amazing ambassador in a sense for BMW. You know, he had a E46 M3 Touring, he had a E91 M3 Touring. I mean, that was iconic, that car. He did so much to it, and unfortunately it got written off on the M25, I think, which was just the worst way for that car to go, and completely not his fault. But he proceeded and made his current F81, which is just a stunning piece of kit. People stop and stare at it everywhere, and I'm wondering again if that's what's triggered this decision. You know, BMW would not admit that. Of course they wouldn't. How could they admit that a single person, or in fact there's a number of F81 Tourings out there now, including a beautiful CS, I think it's over in Belgium or something. Oh, but Nick was like the godfather and started that trend and hasn't stopped. And I really will be upset if Nick doesn't get invited out to Germany when they launch this car eventually, because I think, yeah, he should do, because he is, you know, he's kept the dream alive for all of us. He really has. I don't know what he's going to do now that they're actually making one. What are you going to do, Nick? Maybe make an M5 Touring. But anyway, yeah, massive hats off to Nick Pritchard. And if you haven't seen his car, you don't follow him on Instagram, then make sure you do. Lovely bloke, and what a car. What's the M3 Touring going to be like? Well, we know it's based on the G80 M3, which we don't know loads about at the moment. But as we talked about, we know it's going to have an S58 engine. We know it's going to be around 500 horsepower. Are they going to make a pure version of the Touring? I would probably hazard a guess and say no, but who knows? Are they going to make a manual? Again, I wouldn't have thought so, just because it's just another combination for them to test and spend money on development and stuff. But let's see, let's keep our fingers crossed. I mean, how cool would a M3 Touring rear-wheel drive in a manual be? I mean, just ridiculous. But how many of those would they sell is the argument. There will be some purists like myself that would want that, but is there enough of them for them to spend the development costs, especially if it's going to be a limited run? Probably not, but let's see. It's all hearsay and guesses. We know that it's going to have some unique body panels. You know, the rear arches are going to look mega, like they always have done on M3s. The boot lid, the bumper, all of that's going to be completely unique. The exhaust is probably going to be a bit different to the saloon, and in fact it might even sound slightly different. The interior, well, we don't know a great deal about the new G80 interior, but I'm guessing there's going to be the new M buttons at the top of the wheel, so probably a different wheel to your regular 3 Series and 4 Series. Probably some nice dials. The M setup button is probably going to be in there, which has trickled down from the M8. I'm guessing with the new M cars of the M3 and M4, they always release a sort of unique seat, so I'm really hoping that, you know, they bring out a really nice, impressive comfortable, supportive seat. They will, because they're BMW and they've always made fantastic seats. The other thing I'm really hoping for is a nice low driving position. I'm talking about the G80 in general here, not just the Touring. And of course the sound. I mean, I strongly hope and believe that BMW are going to nail it with this car, because recent M cars have suffered due to the OPF filter, but let's use my M2 competition as an example. When that was launched, it was launched right at the wrong time. You know, BMW had been basically stitched up because the OPF and all these new regulations came out just as that car was about to be launched, so they had to bodge some things in there, and whether they admit it or not, the exhaust system was bodged on, and a number of things were designed not to run with those OPF filters, and so it instantly ruined the sound of a standard M2 competition, and it just, the car didn't have a chance because it wasn't designed to have those originally. You know, it was designed a good few years before those regs came in. So I think the new generation of the M3 and M4, they've had time to work with this. So I'm really hoping that they produce something that sounds very pure and very organic, just like AMG managed to do. And I guess Audi RS to a certain extent, but AMG are definitely the leaders of engine and sound. Regardless of whether it has OPFs and all these noise regulations, they still sound fantastic. So let's hope that BMW do get it right with the new car. I reckon that they will, because I think it's a big part of their DNA. And again, if you've got a car like a C63 with a 4-pot in it, it's time for BMW to really step up and go, you know what, we are gonna just completely disintegrate C63 sales overnight. Done. So let's see what happens. Other interior, I guess there'll be some sportier trim and stuff, but I really don't know. I'm not going to comment on all of that because I just don't know. But expect it to look really special. There have been some renders on the internet already floating around of what the M3 Touring is going to look like from the front end, but I really think that the renders we're looking at are more 3 Series Touring as opposed to M3 Touring. They're not flared and aggressive enough for the M3. So I think, yeah, just hold your complete judgment until you see one in the flesh. I think that's about it, guys. I have hopefully covered everything that you want to hear. That's about everything I know, really, in terms of the M3 Touring, and I just can't wait to see one and obviously drive one in the flesh, but that's going to be a good couple of years off, and in the meantime I can look forward to driving the new G80 M3 and G82 M4 next year. I think it's going to be a very exciting car, and I think it's really going to lead the way in a number of ways, you know. I just can't wait to drive that car. I think it's really going to be good. In terms of pricing, I'm estimating that M3 or M4 is going to be around the £70,000 mark with a couple of toys on it. So the Touring, by the time it comes out in 2022, you're probably going to be looking at close to 75 grand. Going to be a big old gap between, say, an M340i Touring and that. M340i Touring, just quickly finish the video on that. I mean, that's a fantastic car, and for the money, it's incredible. You know, it's one of my favorite sort of all-round packages, especially for, what is it, 50-odd thousand pounds. So there's going to be a big gap between that and, say, the M3 Touring at 25 grand. But I really think the minute you see one, and you sit in one, and you drive one, you'll realise what the difference is going to be. Yeah, it might only be half a second quicker to 62 miles an hour, but it's not about that. You know, M cars, they just feel so much more connected and so much better on the limit, and also so much more special in terms of just the body panels and the interior, the slight tweaks and stuff. So really look forward to seeing that. Thanks a lot for watching this video. I know it's been a long one, but hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. I guess it's a bit of a podcast because there's nothing really to look at except for me the whole way through it and my fantastic control and shift t-shirt. Guys, I will see you at the next video very soon. stay safe and have a lovely weekend. Cheers.